Is everyone ready? Let's start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Plumpton,
Here.
Emmeline Baker,
Here.
Happy,
Here.
Keller,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Mayor Fallon.
Here. Okay, any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I would like to pull something from the consent agenda. Do I propose that now or consent agenda?
You want to move something up? No.
Approval of the amended 23. Now or then?
If you want to take something off, you would do it now.
I would like to remove A, approval of amended January 23rd city council minutes out for discussion and another amendment.
You want to approve B and C?
I'm happy with B and C in there.
Yeah, well, if you take that out, you need to.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Oh,
and-
thank you. I moved to, I didn't know I had to make a motion if I was.
We're still amending the agenda, we're not at the consent
Right.
agenda.
I'm just amending it.
Got it.
Okay.
So that would be by motion, it needs to be seconded.
Yeah,
Oh, I move to remove approval of amended 2023 city council minutes from the adoption consent agenda.
usually when this happens, when we have if you wait for the adoption of the consent agenda, and then you remove it,
Okay,
and then approve next
I
two.
thought I was in two, but if we're
Yes.
back up to three. Then I move that we approve the February 13th city council minutes and the ratification of bills in the amount of $215,729.92.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Plumpton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Okay. Public hearing.
Oh,
No, wait.
We need to discuss.
Discussion?
Oh, do I speak now on the?
Yeah.
I would like to offer another amendment to the January 23rd, 2023 city council minutes for full transparency and clarification. I watched the video, so I have the time if that's needed, but I would propose that after the motion at the bottom of page 1, CM Miller moved to appoint Brenda Wood to the second vacant council position, seconded by CM Happy. CM's Happy, Keller, Miller voted in favor of appointing Ms. Wood. CM Emmeline Baker, and Mayor Fallon voted against. The motion did not pass. If I may propose, I would like to add Mayor Fallon at that time said, it doesn't pass, you have to have 4 of us. And CM Miller said, oh, I know. And there were no other comments about the quorum or majority.
I said, oh, I know,
Yes, you did. It's in the video.
so,
Okay, I just wanted to add that for clarification.
but the problem with it is that this was all in error.
Well, but
We're just
minutes are
discussing what happened.
Minutes are discussing what happened, and I thought it was important to add that clarification in the minutes. And do I discuss it now as well? Or restate my,
I think we're just trying to approve the minutes from the January 20.
right, and I'd like to add some clarification to the minutes.
You want them amended
To add, Mayor Fallon said, so it doesn't pass, you have to have 4 of us. And CM Miller said, oh, I know.
Well, I don't remember saying that, but I would fine, I will go listen to it,
Okay, I can give you the time at 51:47.
because I've listened to it quite a few times.
Well, from what I understand, you're looking to amend the minutes to add, to reflect what was said.
Right,
Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. But it still doesn't change the fact that the mistake was made.
Do I have a second to the motion?
Did, you got happy.
Right.
Oh,
Well, that was a different motion. That was to approve the consent agenda, items B and C. I don't think we have a motion to amend.
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved to amend the January 23rd, 2023 minutes further than the other amendment on there to add at the bottom of page 1, after the motion, CM Miller moved to appoint Brenda Wood to the second vacant council position, seconded by CM Happy. CM's Happy, Keller, Miller voted in favor of appointing Ms. Wood. CM Emmerling Becker, Mayor Fallon voted against. The motion did not pass. Mayor Fallon said, you have to, it doesn't pass, you have to have 4 of us. CM Miller said, oh, I know.
I guess my question is why?
Because there is a big discussion about the validity of that quorum or vote on that date. And I think it's important for the community to see that, to have that written in our minutes. I don't see why not.
I guess my concern is, it's obvious to me that the mistake was made. Why are we putting this in here?
To show that we all in good faith believe that it took 4 to pass.
But it's still a mistake.
And we may do
The
something
minutes.
about it this meeting, but I think it is important for our following in good ethics and good faith, our charter, that these comments were made establishing what we believed that night.
And the minutes are just reflection of what happened. They're not what should have happened.
Yes, it's just to clarify that's what happened.
And see, like from, the takeaway I got from, the email that we received from the city attorney was, whether or not the council believed the vote to have passed. And I think that's,
This
your reasoning off
clarifies
was
that
that it
we-
was, everybody was in agreement that the vote did not pass at that time.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, indeed. I mean, we could go further and say there were no other comments about whether that was quorum, but I think it's just important to state what was said.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
And I guess if we have time for some discussion here, I feel like it's important that we do our due diligence to verify the information you provided. I don't think we can amend the minutes to reflect anything besides what's in the video transcript. Is that correct?
Right.
I mean, you're not asking to add something that doesn't exist. You're
No.
just asking that,
I can give you the times as well if you want. 51:34. Mayor Fallon spoke in 51:47. CM Miller spoke, Butch Miller spoke. I don't know if we need to review the video transcript to make you feel comfortable.
I guess I'm kind of with Eric, that what happened is kind of behind us.
I just don't see the relevance in it.
I think it's good clarification.
There are a lot of things that are included in our transcript and video that aren't included in the minutes. And I don't think it's possible that we're ever gonna have the minutes reflect every word that's said during our meeting. That's why we have both.
Right.
I agree with you, and it is part of the official record, and it's not in the minutes necessarily, but it is in the video record already, so.
It just seems like an important information at this time. But
I think it could potentially pose a little bit of a stumbling block though for us to move forward with this, because we all haven't reviewed the video, so it's hard for me to vote yes on this if I haven't reviewed the video myself, and I don't think we have time this evening to do it.
I think it
We
was.
can table this, so Marilyn, if you could take a review of it.
And we would then possibly approve these amended minutes in the next meeting.
Correct.
But I do think it's worthy of pointing out that the minutes are really a record of what happened. whether or not a mistake happened or not, it doesn't change the minutes, right?
Right, and sometimes, just like we are approving amended minutes, clarification of some of the words are important for our community to know, I think.
Okay, but it's been moved and it's been seconded, so you.
Hey, wait, please. So,
Any other discussion? Point to.
So it's been moved and seconded, so then there's been a discussion. So at that point, vote. Or table it for,
I think we have to vote.
Correct, yeah, yeah, there's been a set
All right, let's vote on it. Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Can you repeat that, please?
To add in the designated place, Mayor Fallon said it doesn't pass, you have to have 4 of us. And Council CM Miller said, oh, I know.
And there's a second. Now it goes to vote. We've had a discussion. All right, how about roll call vote?
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Kathy,
Aye.
Keller,
No,
Miller,
No.
Mayor Fallon,
Aye. Okay. All right, we're on. So,
So that was to add that language to the minutes. I think we still need a motion to approve those minutes.
Well, I think we can't approve the minutes until we answer the question on the mistake that was made.
again, the minutes are just a record of what happened, and then in the meeting, I think we can discuss.
Correct.
Right, when it says appointment to council vacancy, maybe we have a discussion.
Well, I don't see that there's a vacancy right now, because
well, we can move to approve the February 13th minutes.
I
those
move
have already- those have been approved.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the amended January 23rd city council minutes.
I second.
Vote.
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Kathy,
Aye.
Keller,
aye.
Miller,
No.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right. Now on action items. First one, appointment to fill council vacancy.
Well, first, I don't think there is a vacancy to be filled because Brenda Wood was duly elected. Under section 19, which
Which I think we understand exactly what you're trying to get
there's
at.
a lot of people here that have heard it, so I'm going to repeat it.
Okay,
Under section 19, it says, vote required, except as this charter provides otherwise. That's the caveat. Except as this charter provides otherwise. Express concurrence of a majority, 4 members of the council is necessary to decide affirmatively any question before council. That's where the 4-vote mistake was made. Section 30 of the charter states, council vacancies shall be filled by a majority of the remaining members of council. The appointee's term of office shall begin immediately and shall continue until the next general election term. It says majority of remaining members. This is where that caveat from 19 comes in. It states here, the remaining members. Now, there is a precedent that was set in 2011, when there were only 3 members remaining on this board. They had to fill the council with 3 members. So that caveat is already, or that has already been done, that precedent's already been set. Okay, now you go to council procedures 2.3. Filling vacancies. Any vacancy occurring on city council will be filled in accordance with the City of Cascade Charter, Section 30. Section 30. That means the remaining members voted 3-2, the majority. So she was actually duly elected. Now, a lot has been said about, we have a great latitude in how we select council members. We have a latitude in the process of whether we appoint them just straight out, whether we let them put in applications, whether we let them send in emails. That's true. But we do not have any latitude in voting. It is spelled out in the charter and the council procedures. So Brenda Wood was duly elected.
I have a question for City Attorney Rubin. At the time of the vote, in accordance to section 30, the appointment of a new city council member and their term starts immediately, would that make even a wrongly elected person still sitting on the council? As Pam was elected but ineligible, or appointed but ineligible, and her appointment happened right before the second vote, would that influence the total number of filled city council seats on the?
Well, it would, because if someone doesn't meet the qualifications, the basic qualifications of the council, then they cannot fill a vacancy.
And
Even if they were in that moment filling that vacancy and
Correct, they would need,
sworn in.
correct, they would need to, in order to sit on the council, they would need to meet the minimum qualifications of council in accordance with the charter.
And I have a question. It is my understanding that if the council that evening, even if wrongly, interpreted the quorum as 4 from 19, and we did not pass the appointment of Brenda that night, and we are now trying to rectify maybe some things we would change if another vacancy came up, are we legal to say what we did, the motion did not pass? Obviously, we elected somebody whose, the criteria did not pass. It is my opinion, now we have a vacant position. Does that seem like a legal interpretation of what occurred on January 23rd?
For which position?
We have one vacant seat because it couldn't be filled by the person who was voted in unanimously. And it wasn't filled by the person for whom we interpreted our charter and quorum as 4.
Well, that's what you as a council need to decide. So you as a council are tasked with interpretation of your charter and of your council rules. And here we have a situation where we did have a vote of the majority in accordance with section 30, but that vote was not recognized by the council. So it's up to you tonight in interpreting the charter as a whole body, as a council body of the government, to determine what the effect of that failure to affirmatively accept that vote is. And if you want to come together tonight and determine there was a mistake, we are going to reaffirm that vote. We are going to recognize that vote. That is up to you as a council to decide to do if you want to. In the alternative, if you want to determine that because it was not affirmatively recognized, that it needs to be revoted on, then you can do that tonight. You can revote on that filling of the vacancy and determine, and then kind of correct the error, as it were.
Well,
And
reconsideration of a vote has to be done on the night of the vote, not a month later. And so.
And that's
we
a
don't
fair
have
point for the council to consider,
Yeah.
that there are no go backs. And that's something that the council as a whole needs to determine as to whether that's something that would be allowed or not.
Yes, that was my question, is what determines if the vote passes or not? It seems like from what I read in your memo, it's whether or not the council accepts the vote.
Well, we shouldn't discuss the attorney-client privilege document.
Understand?
Okay. The situation is that there is no affirmative statement in the charter regarding votes and how they're accepted and whether they're affirmed or not. We had a vote. It was a majority of the council. It was in accordance with section 30, but it wasn't affirmed by the council. It wasn't recognized by the council. And so you as a council need to determine whether that makes it a nullity or whether that has, even though it wasn't affirmed by the council, that it's a vote in favor anyway and should be accepted.
So I guess my question is, do we need to change our process? Because I mean, you've seen us go through a couple of votes this evening. It's not like we even have a summary at the end of the vote of what the yeas and nays are. You know, I mean, who affirms the vote? At what point? I mean, no point this evening that I feel like anybody affirmed the votes. We just listened to the votes.
Well, there's usually notation as to whether it passes or not, or a declaration as to whether it passes or not.
So there should be a declaration at the end of the vote. If the vote was 3-2, the motion did not pass.
Well, for example, the mayor saying motion passes after the tally of the votes would be an affirmation that the vote has been tallied and accepted as either in the affirmative or not.
And I don't think that happened that night.
It's based on my reading of the minutes, it did not happen. It was declared by the council to be to not pass, yeah.
Well, then you heard by her amendment to the minutes that the mayor said it did not pass.
And
So,
you
yeah.
agreed, and nobody contested the quorum. I, in
It
good
was
faith,
a mistake.
I in good faith believe the quorum was 4, when there could be 4. Now I'm learning maybe that's not. And I would propose, and maybe I'm gonna begin with discussion, I would propose that we have a vacancy and that we, in all fairness to Brenda and Pam, that we follow our original procedure. We have a vacancy, we put out a call for people to apply, and at the next council meeting, that is my proposal. That's what I would suggest.
Sean?
I have another question regarding the minutes and how the process went, because we affirmed Pam, even though she was ineligible. And do we have to unaffirm Pam? Because according to what the minutes have, she's never been removed from the position necessarily by the council or anything either. I just want to make sure that's like as a housekeeping thing. Is that?
Well, I mean, once again, the charter doesn't really say whether you have to or not, and the council rules don't say. I mean, my thought is that based on failure to meet the minimum qualifications, that the appointment was simply invalid. And I don't see that you have to make any sort of additional findings or anything like that, but you certainly could if you wanted to.
Under section 29, occurrence of vacancies, the office of a member of the council becomes vacant upon declaration by the council of the vacancy in the case of a failure following an election or appointment to the council to qualify to the council within 10 days from the date the term is to begin. Though there wasn't a formal declaration, it was declared in council that she did not qualify. And so she was not sitting there. There was not a formal declaration.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure that that was ironed out, as it could be interpreted as semi-ambiguous.
Yeah, but she did not qualify. So
And that's why I appreciate your searching out, 30 after the meeting so that we have new information. I feel that in good faith to the community, that we made a votes that evening, both, not knowing about the registration dates for Pam and believing that quorum was 4, in good faith for the best of this council and the community. And that's why I propose that we have a vacancy and we decide, as Ruben says, do we want to vote on these 2 people again tonight? Do we want to put out a call as we did for the first, looking for candidates? We might even get more. What I believe we have 2 people that weren't voted in that evening, and we now have a vacancy. So what do we want to do about it?
Ruben, can you clarify our options as a council?
Okay, yes, you can accept the vote for Brenda and reaffirm it or affirm it because it was not initially affirmed. Or you can decide that it is a nullity based on the fact that it wasn't affirmed based on a mistake. And that's entirely up to you as the council to make one of those two choices.
And we may vote again this evening, as I suggested, on the 2 candidates, one that is now available and meets the criteria.
If the council determines that that's the appropriate, I'm not advising you to do that, but if the council determines that that's the appropriate action to take, then the council can do that.
And
We can
that's
fill a
big.
vacancy any way we choose, so long as it's in line with our charter.
But I'm not advising you to do that.
And so this
Giving us options.
Correct.
body,
I'm not advising you to do the other either. I'm
Right.
just giving you your options because you as a council are the sole body in determining what your procedures are and what your charter interpretation is.
then I'm gonna make a motion.
Wait. Do citizens get to have a discussion, part of this discussion first?
Not
Because
yet.
if you make a motion, then again, the citizens, usually, I can be so bold, usually the citizens get to talk first, and then the council gets to discuss it, and then it's done, but you're doing it in backward order, and you don't have any voice.
How about-
in this matter.
After you hear my motion, and if it's seconded,
And Ruben, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
So when there's a motion made, then it's second, then it goes into discussion, correct?
For the
So
council.
at that time.
But we're still, we're following the published agenda for our city council meeting. And action item 5A is appointment to fill a city council vacancy. And
we skipped 4.
we did skip 4.
Those are.
No, there was
no public
There was no.
There was
No,
no
public
public
hearing,
hearing,
yeah.
no.
We didn't skip.
But because where is the presentation? The interested parties, where is that on our agenda this evening?
well, see,
6, there we go, thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to speak to the comments from the people that
But
are
6
here.
is for things not on the agenda, so
Exactly.
we don't get to.
I see. So they can speak up during discussion.
that's what, well, I say the motion, then seconded.
Thank you.
Yes.
We have our discussion, and then they can.
We're working
discuss
through
it.
this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so can I start with my motion?
Yes, sir.
I move in the act of fairness that Brenda Wood was duly elected, that we affirm her position to fill the vacancy on the council. Because a mistake was made.
There's been a motion.
I second the motion.
And I guess while
Now it goes to discussion.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think the sticking point though is whether or not we affirm the vote. And
That's what I'm saying.
We did not affirm the vote.
But that's what the motion is to affirm the vote and to affirm her appointment to council.
But we didn't affirm the vote that evening.
So it doesn't matter.
But that's why we're doing it now.
Well, personally, I'd like to move forward and not backward. I would like to admit that there is a vacancy on the council and move forward with a new vote, whether it's now or in 2 weeks after we have done our due diligence in posting that there is a vacancy. That is what I think is most fair, because we did make a vote, and I want to stand by what we did vote.
And the vote
And
declaration after it was a mistake. So how is it fair to Brenda that because we made a mistake and she was properly elected, duly elected, we deny her that seat?
because we didn't even have a plan for interviewing all of the people. And so I don't like the idea that whoever rushes forward with a motion, that person would be elected. I hope that we would have a new plan. If we have 10 candidates for a vacancy, that there is a way we get to hear from all of them instead of voting on the first 2.
Well,
Does that
by
make sense?
that thinking, then Sean has to get off the board.
But he's on the board and appointed and met
Yeah,
all the
but
criteria.
what you just said there, he would have to remove himself.
No, I'm
Because you're not liking
moving
the way it was
forward,
done.
not backward. I'm not going to go backward. I want to move forward on how we do things in the future, because it does appear we made some mistakes. I don't want to move backward. I want to move forward.
Well, the way to move forward is to correct the mistake. And the way to correct the mistake is written right in our charter and in our council procedures. It's to obey the council procedures and the council and the city charter is how to correct the mistake.
We made a different interpretation of quorum. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was a different interpretation of quorum that I hope we won't make again. I think that is what is legal. And I still believe that if there could be 4 in a quorum, that it's important, and that Sean was elected with 4. So now that my mind is beginning to get changed, we're down to so small, then the majority, the simple majority would work. I want to move forward, and that's why I don't want to change what we did in the past. I want to move forward and allowing Brenda that opportunity again.
I guess my question is, what happens to Sean's position, Mr. Crompton's position? We affirmed Ms. Tweed, we affirmed Ms. Wood, according to Mr. Miller. And so what happens to his position? Because in theory, if we made this mistake, his position needs to be vacant and we need to go through this, is my understanding. So we messed up with Ms. Tweed, we messed up with Ms. Wood, then what happens to Mr. Crompton?
That is why I believe we've acted in good faith on all of the candidates. We believed the quorum was for Brenda. We believed Ms. Tweed met the criteria. We voted Sean with 4 votes that met our night quorum that we believed to be the quorum that night. Therefore, I believe Sean is here. And what you're saying, Council Member Keller, is true. Once we go down this rabbit hole, what we could have done better, we are creating then we open a whole, now what? Does Sean go out? I would rather make plans for the future. And certainly, one of those plans will be if we have a vacancy and 10 people apply, we have some way of voting on all 10 and not just the first 2 that a council member jumps to the gun and says, I motion for. I don't want to jump to the gun with Pete because he really likes somebody. But wait, I like the person who pitched one down, you know? So there are things we do need to change in the future. The past, I think, was clearly done, even though it is now to my attention that it can be done differently in the future. But we acted in good faith in the past. We acted legally in our legal interpretation of quorum. And yes, Ms. Tweed is not appointed because she didn't meet the criteria after 10 days. So we have a vacancy. So how are we gonna move forward? That's why I don't wanna, I'm not going to support Councilmember Miller's current proposal, but I would support a proposal regarding a future vacancy. So
After listening to our lawyer and hearing that in the ineligible vote is pretty much null from the beginning because there was no way that Ms. Twig could be eligible within the 10 days. Even though we did do that, it's in our best interest to try to rectify what we can in this situation, and we did make a mistake, but there was a positive 3-2 vote. I believe you guys were acting in good faith in that night. It was a mistake, and correcting that mistake looks more like appointing Brenda Wood and reaffirming today that we want to appoint her as that vacant spot filling. And it might be 3-2 again, or 3-3, and we would have to discuss that further.
are you suggesting a vote to revote for Brenda Wood?
Well, that's essentially
That's what-
That's essentially what that's what the already been motion and second.
So we can repeat the motion that's currently on the table.
I made the motion that we affirm that Brenda Wood was duly elected to the city council by a 3-2 vote. And a mistake was made on her initial day, so we are trying to correct that mistake.
Is that what you were?
That was basically,
I was under the assumption it was more of a, we are voting her in now.
yeah, well, it would be, we're affirming that she was duly elected.
That would be the effect.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so she would be coming on board now.
Yes, okay.
Councilman King?
I just wanted to say that I think that I've heard a lot of people say that the charter is open interpretation. I feel like the charter is pretty black and white, especially on the subject. And while the charter is black and white, we still made a mistake. And we affirmed that vote that evening, and we have reviewed the minutes from that evening, which we have approved the meeting minutes from that evening. That's why I believe that, while I believe the charter is very black and white and clear, we cannot affirm Brenda as winning that vote because we didn't affirm the votes that evening. We have to stick with those votes. I mean, we made a mistake, I agree. But
So
that vote was affirmed that evening, and it opens up dangerous precedent to say that we can go back and change votes after the fact. I think that's a very slippery slope. I think we need to move forward with the decision that was already made, that we affirmed and agreed on in the January, the city council meeting that evening. And we do still have a vacancy, which we can then move forward with how we want to fill that.
And possibly we need to add that, or, future clarification of council vacancies, I think really needs to be cleaned up. Because I do want that we say we must look at 30 instead of 19. We must somehow come up with a fair way to interview and vote on all of them rather than just the first two. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying, and I've heard other people talk about this before, as well. That evening, and every time, that we've had a vacancy, we've interviewed all the candidates before we move forward with the motion to approve, any of them, the city council.
If we don't reaffirm Brenda Wood and we don't follow the city charter and the council procedures, then they're not worth the paper they're printed on.
How is it we would not be following the city charter though if we don't affirm the vote? I feel like we are in violation to the charter by not affirming the vote, or by reaffirming the vote or changing our vote, because
We're not changing the vote. We are affirming that the vote was 3-2 and that she was duly elected.
But Butch, even that evening, you thought she wasn't duly elected.
No,
So
I
we're
thought
not
something was
changing-
wrong that evening. I
Yeah.
couldn't put my finger on it.
So my question to council, do you have a clear understanding of your three options? Can you restate those? 1, 2, 3.
Well, this is kind of more a bit, but,
Okay.
okay. So the first option is to, recognize that the previous vote was in favor of appointing Brenda to the council. It's not changing the vote, it's just recognizing what happened and recognizing that there was a mistake in not affirming that vote. The second option is to determine that because it was not affirmed, that it needs to be retaken. And apparently the third option that's been raised is to start over, but that's not something that I necessarily recommend.
But you're not recommending the other two? Or,
Well, it's,
or you are?
um,
Kind of putting you on the spot.
well,
They're looking for guidance on.
I mean, really, the council really needs to make this decision on their own. I do think though that it is just personally that it is a bit of a injustice for someone to receive a vote but not have it recognized. But that's my personal opinion, and does not hold legal precedent. You as the council have the authority to interpret your rules and your charter.
Is there citizen comment yet?
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not signed up for this, but there might be other people here in power. I just want to make sure that citizens get to be able to speak on it.
Yeah, I'll speak. Tom Bramwell. And I agree with Ruben. I can't go to a court of law and make a mistake on something's a law. This is law. This is your constitution. This thing, I can't go to the judge and say, you know what? I didn't have a right, Judge. Give me a break. We'll do it again. We'll do it again next time. Judge is gonna go, sorry. You did it wrong. This is what the thing says, and this is what's gonna happen to you. That's the same thing going on here. Because you talk about a slippery slope. If you do not confirm Brenda, which was, you had 5 people that were sitting there. And Ruben said, you had 5 people, it was 3-2, she was confirmed, whether you had it right or not. Because you didn't read what our charter was, doesn't mean you just get to slide away from the guard. That is a slippery slope. The slippery slope is not affirming Brenda out here. Because if you're not gonna affirm Brenda and say, okay, we can do what we want there, then somebody who didn't have a time in here, you made a mistake there, that they get to be on. We don't want to go back, just bring them on. And that's what we'll go on down the road with, was down the road, everybody's gonna go, hey, I want you to be here a week. And I'm on, just let them on, I'm on. I'm not gonna hold you to it. You can go back to whatever it is. You have a charter. And I'm assuming when you get sworn in, you swear to that charter. So whether you know the charter was right or not, a judge is not gonna give me a break that I don't know the law. He's gonna say, sorry, this is the law. So I'm sorry, but that is the charter. And Brenda was affirmed. And you heard from your lawyer that Brenda was affirmed. And that is the slippery slope, to say we're going back and doing something else. Do the right thing. Go back and affirm Brenda, because that is what your charter says. That's what we all have to stick by. I've been through a bunch of charter situations. And what we go to is the charter. And just because you don't know the charter, because you started out in here, doesn't mean it wasn't. That is the charter. And you should affirm Brenda, bottom line, because what that is gonna do, this council is not gonna be a strong council. I believe we got a great council here, but I'm telling you, if you don't put Brenda in there and follow what your charter said, you have opened yourself up to not be that good of a council. Because that is the fair thing to do. So come on, man, it's not hard. That's what your charter, people put that together. They worked hard to put that thing together for us. And to go against it, because that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go, well, no, sorry. So anyway. do the right thing, put Brenda in here and move on.
I might add, I did read the charter and I did note section 19, a majority in parentheses, 4 members. And section 30 says a majority of remaining members, and yet, to me, section 19 defined majority. And I've looked, with all due respect to Ruben, our attorney, I've looked at many legal documents that majority can be defined in many ways. And here it is defined in 19 as 4 members in parentheses. So even majority of remaining members, when I saw that, I thought it included the parentheses that came previously in 19. And that's why I don't think we violated the charter. That's how I read it, and I've seen legally online that it can be defined that way. Simple majority is different than majority. And so it doesn't say simple majority of remaining members. And therefore, I know legal counsel has advised us that our interpretation counts, and that evening, that's how I counted it. So while we may vote this in, I don't want anybody to believe that we didn't know the charter or that we weren't acting in good faith. We saw a number in parentheses that defined the term majority in 19 prior to 30. So that's what I was acting upon.
But you are ignoring the caveat in it, except as this charter provides otherwise and 30 provides otherwise.
Except the definition of majority, I believed, was 4 members because it's written there. And now I'm presuming, fine, if the rest of council wants to believe it's 3, then that's what we'll go with. So,
So
I just want to put that out
how
there.
do you explain 2011 when only 3 members voted?
Well, we didn't have the possibility for a majority of 4. That's when it worked.
That's why 30 is in there.
If
So,
there's
Mr.
4,
Miller, I have a question. When the members of the council were writing this charter, what was their intent in what they were writing? Do you believe that their intent was a simple majority? Or do you believe that their intent was, like, in a situation where there were only 3 council members and they couldn't get the 4 vote majority, that's when it's enacted? What do you believe their intent was when they wrote this?
Well, I'm not a mind reader and I wasn't there when they wrote it. And the charters are not usually written by council people. They're written by an independent group. They're independent of the council.
They were approved by the council, correct?
They're approved by the council.
Okay, so what
but
was
they're
the,
written by an independent
so
group.
what do you think is the intent of that?
Well, I think they saw that there would not be a full majority of quorum, so they went with the more majority of remaining members. And so they clearly stated there that it's remaining members.
Because I agree when we're in a situation of 3 council members or 4, whatever, and we can't meet that 4 vote majority, a catastrophe happens, mass resignation, whatever occurs, that is when that kicks in. And I believe the intent of the approval of this charter was to get a greater decision and a greater hold of a majority at 4.
Well, and you have to go to procedures of council and under 2.3. It says use section. So it was clearly their intent to go to a remaining majority.
Okay, any other discussion?
So I guess this motion really comes down to.
I had one online.
Yeah, one
and-
online, yeah. Okay, I'm assuming, I'm gonna guess there's probably more.
Can
I'm
you
sorry, I
state
didn't-
the date?
My name's
State
Clayton
your
Good. Sorry about that. My name's Clayton Good. I've been, had my hand raised and stuff, so I was trying to throw it in here. Okay, so a question I'd like to know, I'd like to ask, Ruben's professional opinion on what's the potential recourse that an individual, let's say Brenda or any other concerned citizen who's unhappy with this result, that they might, contest and have some recourse of any kind, whatever it is, that this is a result of the lack of clarity in the charter and interpretation of what was a lawful vote. So I want to know what Ruben thinks of potential recourse, since the clear indication is on the vote itself and not on the affirmation requirement. So I want to know, since one is clear, the vote, and one is not clear, the affirmation requirement, is there any recourse that the city is just going to get tied up in litigation on this? That's the question I'd like to ask Rudy. And now I just kind of want to throw in my second, just my 2 cents on it. Not legal or anything other than that. But my personal opinion is that in that meeting where these two counselors were both affirmed, and I didn't see anything wrong with it either, just like you all didn't. But one thing I do know is that Mayor Fallon said there was a big rush to fill these vacancies, and Councilor Happy had even asked if there was an opportunity to take more time. And he asked to delay the vote, and there was basically an insistence. It seemed to be coming from mostly the mayor, and other councilors had affirmed, so it's not just the mayor, but basically had insisted that it was important to fill these vacancies expediently. And so despite Councilor Happy asking for more time, this was kind of rushed. And so it obviously does seem that mistakes might have been made, right? Things were rushed for whatever reason. It was we needed to fill these vacancies, and now we obviously don't. Now we're big installing. So that's my personal opinion. And my personal opinion is consistent with what Tiffany Pruitt and Mayor Cramblett had offered at the last council meeting, and what Ruben affirmed to be his personal but not professional opinion today, was that it seems fair that Brenda, what Tiffany and Mayor Cramblett has said, Brenda had run for council. She was within 8 votes of one counselor, 10 votes of the other. This wasn't a repudiation against her. This was like a slim margin. The only one counselor had a clear lead. That was Councilor Happy. He had a decisive, commanding victory. The others were kind of all around the same thing. And 2 of them are strongly fighting against Brenda here, or at least one. And so that didn't seem like a decisive, commanding repudiation against Brenda to me personally. And so then what Ruben had said today is that, you had a vote, and it just seems very unfair that it wouldn't be affirmed. And I totally understand how it did, and I didn't feel that anything had gone wrong. But now when I see it here all playing out, it just feels like a good opportunity for a second chance. And so, yeah, in my comment, but I would like to ask if Ruben has any comments on that first part. Like, what is legal recourse? Can somebody get drug into a battle because they view this differently, or what are we up against here? Thank you.
Okay, well, it's inappropriate for me to take questions direct from the audience, but if the council wants me to answer that, I'm willing to do so.
It's my opinion that there can be legal recourse for almost anything, so I don't.
Pretty much.
It needs to be answered.
Pretty much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I don't see anybody with hands up. Not just to belabor this anymore, but I just want to say that I agree with the comments that have been made by many this evening, that it doesn't feel fair and it doesn't feel right to, we screwed up. I agree. But we have a procedure that we have to follow. And I wouldn't say that we're necessarily, I think the reason why I guess I feel compelled to stand and, against what your motion, it's not that I don't agree with it, it's that I don't feel like, the motion is whether or not we need to reaffirm the votes or affirm Brenda. At the time of the vote, we did not affirm that as a passing. And while it was a mistake and it was wrong, that really is what it comes down to, is what did we believe the vote was the night we took the vote? And the night we took the vote, we all believed Brenda was not selected. That the vote did not pass 3-2.
So in other words, you want to just make up a procedure again and just go down another rabbit hole, because there is no procedure for this.
Well, but there is.
But we can correct the mistake.
I don't believe that, there was a mistake that was made.
Would it be better to just rephrase the motion to, instead of reaffirming or affirming, to just motion to appoint Brenda Wood as to fill the vacant slot?
I will amend my motion to that. I make a motion that we appoint Brenda Wood to fill the vacancy.
Can I ask a question here? So what happens to Miss Tweet? Is she just out of the running?
Well, it depends on, I guess.
She wasn't eligible at the time.
But she's eligible now.
I want to.
And I do think it's, I don't mean to interrupt you, sorry. But I do, think, and I said before, 8 votes, I mean, it was so close. But I will also say that Pamela was the only person that was, every single person voted for, so,
Yeah, so I voted for her too,
but
because she came out and she was not eligible. And to me, that puts her out of the running all the way through. You know, even if you decide you want to have another vote, for me, I'd be no, because she was ineligible the first time. And the whole problem now is because of that. And because we made a mistake.
And I would like to read section 19, vote required, except as this charter provides otherwise, express concurrence of a majority, in parentheses, 4 members of the council is necessary to decide affirmatively any question before council. Now, that I'm presuming anything we're voting on, even if there's only 4 people, needs to have 4. If there's 3, we can't meet that, so it could be higher. Now you go to section 30. Council vacancies shall be filled by a majority of the remaining members of council. When there is the ability to have 4, I believe section 19 comes into play. So I don't call it a mistake. I will concede to this body and say that, no, you're saying that that is just simple majority. Then we need to modify this maybe, because it needs to be more clear. And so I don't think there was a mistake. Do I think it was fair? Because some of my esteemed members believe that 3 was, I'm agreeing totally. And that's why I feel that there is a vacancy, and this, I would rather see this council decide what's our next step in filling that vacancy, so that Brenda has another opportunity and Pam has another opportunity. And if you want to open it up to more people, that to me is the most fair until we even make our charter more clear.
You continue to exclude except as this charter provides otherwise.
It's the definition of majority that I differ with you.
No, you keep excluding that portion of it.
No, I read it in
Yeah, but
30.
you exclude its meaning.
I think you guys can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think we'll
And
disagree.
as far as Clayton, one of the things he stated, I was the only one on council that recommended that we go for 30 days for this process to begin with. The rest of you went for 2 weeks.
we got a motion?
We have a motion, yes, for,
Can you restate your motion?
I move that we, move that we seat Brenda Wood on city council. That's basically it.
I second that motion.
Any other discussion? All right, so now it goes to roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
No,
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
No.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
No.
what do you do at the time?
It doesn't matter. It has to be done.
That's fast.
So I make a motion to fill our vacant city council seat with Pamela.
You really got to be kidding me.
Let's fill the vacancy. It's on the
Yeah.
agenda. Let's get it done.
No.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
To do this would be just a disgrace to this council. I mean, you guys just crossed the line, I think.
So, Mr. Miller, what can we do to come to a compromise here? And what I hear you saying is, I'm unwilling to compromise. I'm here, I'm listening to
I'm willing-
everything you say.
I'm
I
willing
want
to
to
follow
hear-
what the charter says and what council procedure says. The ones that voted no on this last one are not. That's exactly what I see.
Okay, I've expressed reasons why I voted no in previous meetings. So what can we do to come to a compromise to fill this position?
Well, we haven't had a second yet.
We're discussing.
Discussion is not after a second.
Right.
How long do we wait for a second?
There's been a motion. Do you want to restate the motion?
I move that we fill the open city council vacancy with Pam.
Is there a second? So there is not a second?
Thanks, so it doesn't carry.
So it doesn't carry.
I move that we acknowledge there is a council vacancy, well, and we open it up for 2 weeks and vote at the next council meeting.
Gonna rush it again?
You think 2 weeks is not enough? I'm happy to take friendly amendments.
I think we may be facing litigation now.
I think we have a difference of opinion on majority. And that the legal has advised that we could interpret that majority differently. And I would like to give Brenda an opportunity to run again. And I'm not sure the best way to do that, so I'm moving that we acknowledge a vacancy, and I feel like the best way is to open it up for 2 weeks at the next meeting, and I am open to friendly amendments. I know it's keeping it open, but there was thought that we had rushed it before.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion.
Sounds like, but you'd like to extend that to 30 days, so we have a little more time to collect applications?
No, I think, to me, that vacancy was already filled, and I think we just violated our charter and constitution.
Understand that vote's been conducted, we have a new motion on the table, we're having a discussion on that motion, it's been seconded. Would you expressed hesitation of trying to move this forward in just 2 weeks? You've expressed that before, I'm asking, would you like to ask Denise to amend her motion to extend that to 30 days instead of 2 weeks?
I would like this body to be able to work respectfully together, even when we disagree. And I'm willing to move forward with, adding clarification to the term majority in our charter. I'm willing to move forward with different procedure for interviewing the next candidates. I would love for Brenda to apply again. I would love for this vacancy to be filled by members who bring in diverse opinions and will work respectfully with everybody that's here.
I think it's important that we get 7 people on this council. We've got some big decisions that are ahead of us, and especially as we're talking about strategic planning and budgeting is coming up. I feel like we screwed up. We need to make a decision. We need to rectify it. We need to fix it. We've got an open spot. It's pretty.
How would we go about filling the position if either Pamela and or Brenda do not, or apply again, would we treat them as new recipients, or do we fall back on these meetings where we've not passed votes on?
How we fill those vacancies is like, it's very well spelled out in the charter with how those vacancies are filled, and it's open, we fill them however we choose.
And
I'm just asking more as like if we're hung now on even appointing two of the people who are most likely to apply again, how are we gonna move forward past that?
well, to me, it is, they all may say, I'm tired of this, I'm not gonna reply. Number one, number two, I think I'm trying to do the most fair thing. To me, it seems most fair to not do it tonight when tensions are high and there are only two people, and so then we are deciding with a new vacancy, oh, we're gonna just choose the two people that had applied before. That doesn't seem most fair. I could say, oh, there's a vacancy, because there could be another vacancy in 2 months. How are we gonna do it? A member of our community had said before, don't just let the person who didn't win slide into the position. Way back at the first council, when I thought I was gonna be the person that didn't win, and I'm like, well, that's okay, you know, I would apply. I would apply if I didn't win, and do just what we're asking Pam and Brenda to do. So I say that the most fair thing is we recognize this as a vacancy, and I wouldn't call it a mistake. I call it a different interpretation of majority. And that I'm still willing to move forward, that we can interpret majority as simple majority in the future, and I would like that in the charter. And so that's why I make that proposal, that we declare a vacancy and we follow the procedure of allowing 2 weeks for people to apply and speak at the next council meeting. And I don't know how we determine the procedure for voting if we have 6 candidates. I don't want just the first, anyway, that's a whole other proposal. So I propose that we announce a vacancy, 2 weeks for people to apply again. They show up for the next council meeting to be interviewed. And is that what you seconded? Yes.
Any other discussion? There's been a motion, it's been second, we go to roll call vote.
Councilmember Crumpton,
Aye.
Emily Baker,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
No.
Miller,
No.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Motion passes.
I do think that it would be nice, and is it common that Marilyn would say it passes 4-2, or is that the mayor's responsibility? I would like to hear the vote and if it was affirmed or not affirmed.
I affirmed it. Do you want to count?
Yeah,
Marilyn, can you reaffirm the count?
4 yeses, 2 no.
It passes. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's go, let's see. Appointment, there isn't any open office, appointment to committees.
There are 2 appointments, Mary Ann Gump for Budget Committee and Marie Miller for Architectural Review. We had originally discussed waiting till a full council to do these. We as staff are anticipating a full council. That's why they're in the packet.
So here's another Ruben question. So from what I understand in the charter, that the mayor does appoint, correct?
And then affirmed by the council.
Correct.
That's my understanding.
So in our past administration, for the last 2 years, it's always been like, hey, here's some applications, what do you think? And so it was always ran a little different. It was never So these are not appointments, these are applications, is that correct?
Applications for appointment, that's
Applications for appointment, but I did not appoint either one of these. So what then?
So, my understanding would be that you would present them for a majority of the council,
Okay.
because that would require an affirmative vote then to accept that appointment to the committee.
Okay. We're dotting our i's and crossing our t's. All right, so, looks like for architectural review, is it Marie Miller?
Correct, she's also on the planning commission.
Has everyone had a chance to look at her?
Yes.
Looks like she's been here a long time.
And I like to make the statement that we are not related.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna ask. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, any discussion on that?
I just want to check the charter. You can be on both those committees.
The development code actually wants one of those members to be a planning commissioner, so
Okay.
she will take that.
And they only meet really when there's some kind of construction project going on downtown. It's a very specific committee.
And she would be the only member on that.
Well, we have two, if she's appointed tonight, we would have two on that committee. We would need a third one, if and when we meet.
Bonnie, I can't remember her last name.
Thoughts? Let's make a motion to set Marie Miller for architectural review committee.
I'll second that.
I didn't make a motion.
Oh, I need to.
I can't make a motion.
I didn't think so. I was like, well.
No, we need
I make a
motion.
motion that we
Thank you.
move Marie Miller to fill the vacancy in the architectural review committee.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right, next one, Jordan, we just have these two, right? Yep. Correct? The next one is Mary Ann Thumb and for the budget committee.
I make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Bum to the budget committee.
I second.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Okay. And then here we go on next one on the agenda, select community vision proposal.
Yeah, so we had the workshop just before this to go over them. One of the five was not able to present, so now you are free to discuss.
do we discuss before proposal?
Technically, you're supposed to make a motion and then discuss, but nobody ever does it correctly. It's not just here, it's everywhere, so.
What I was just thinking is we're getting ready to go into this process, how this is very similar to filling our vacancy,
Right.
right? You know, it's like,
Oh,
because the discussion happens after the motion.
okay, well, I propose that we all, well, I propose that we all, I mean, do we have to vote on this? That we all share our first choice and why? Or is that a weird thing to propose? Or I want to move forward when we're voting on multiple options. That each option is given fair weight and not just the first one that,
It's reason.
I guess, yeah,
Right.
gets voted.
I motion to vote on the packets we have been all applicable bids for this application to vote on.
Can we make that motion? Moving that, well,
You
We don't necessarily have to
One.
do that as a motion. You can discuss and come to an informal consensus with the council on which way you want to head before a formal motion is made.
okay.
Would you say that the same would apply to any issues that are on the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay, so we don't have to save the discussion until after the motion.
not necessarily.
Yeah, it depends on how strict you want to be in Robert's Rules of Order.
I do like some rules, but, and also should we allow public comment first? Is that what you usually do? And then we discuss?
That's up to you. I mean, really, it depends on the topic and, I mean, to follow Robert's rules to the point where it frustrates the purpose of the meeting is not something I recommend, so, yeah.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing from the council is that you want an opportunity to discuss all of it. And so, because sometimes I think when there's so many or so many decisions, sometimes collectively as a group, as a council, you could say, well, we had our opinions, kind of like the interview process we did. And then we could say collectively, we're probably gonna agree on at least two that were like, these are just not gonna, we can funnel it down. So I think we can start with you, Pete.
Sure.
And just kind of go down your thoughts on them and maybe in the order of our agenda here.
Well, and I guess
from them, or what
one
do
of
you
the
do?
things I was going through in my head was if you just take price off the table, like who would I select? And I'd be kind of curious what everybody else thinks along those lines. I mean, when we're looking at these numbers, it seems like there's a big difference between 12,500 and 20,000, but it's all based on perspective and reality. When you look at our overall city budget, these are all really close to one another. So with price was not an issue. I think Jensen seems like they have the most experience. Eric Jensen is the one that teaches on these topics at the League of Oregon Cities, for the League of Oregon Cities. And I love the fact that something that's been brought up by many of the people in the community is this strategic planning is only effective if we actually do something with it. And that was something that they spoke to, I think, more specifically than the other candidates that we're looking at. And I love the fact that the final report includes those steps for implementation. Because otherwise this money is just entirely wasted. People that I think Cedar, I love the plans they put together and the architectural side of things. But I didn't really feel like that was necessarily gonna be something that was, it wasn't really what we were looking for when we originally opened this up for what we were looking for in this project. And then, was it, how do you say it, Midrondo? Couldn't make it tonight. I felt like the packet that was included had a lot of words in it, but I felt like a lot of words without a lot of meaning. So again, I think that those were the two on the bottom of my list. The two at the top of my list were U of O and Jensen. I liked how the steering committee that U of O suggested included more stakeholders than just folks on the city council and city staff, and did include representatives maybe from our special districts as well.
Top two, Jensen and U of O.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor.
My top two as well, but I put U of O first. I do think that Amanda Ferguson has also had a lot of experience with League of Oregon Cities. She said 25 years working on this. I believe they would probably do, each of them, this is a proposal. They'll do whatever we want, as far as helping with the implementation plan. I feel like they might have more bodies available at less funding to help us with the community involvement and which is really important to me. And we had even discussed a mailer or other ways of doing that, as well as in the end, the implementation. And of course, I have to say that I am slightly leaning that way also because of the funding, and I've worked with University of Oregon Planning for the religious Mount Hood and saw all the extra work they put in because they have lots of bodies. I really did like Jensen, thought they're great. I personally don't want to go with somebody who's not in Oregon, don't want to pay for that extra travel, don't want to, I like this, the scope that both Jensen and you both know our area. They know, Oregon. And so, yeah, these are the only two that I really want to talk about. I did like Sater's, he had some great ideas and might be useful to us in another capacity when we do get some downtown funds from Main Street or something, he might be quite useful there. But for this scope, you will vote first and Jensen second for me.
Councilman
Well, this all started when I suggested that we have a town hall and invite citizens down to the pavilion, maybe some couple $100 for cookies and coffee. Have the citizens tell us exactly what they want. But now it's blown up to a $20,000 plus fiasco for planning goals, which most of these people work with big cities, they don't work with small cities. So I can't agree to wasting $20,000 of that on this proposal. So my vote for all of them will be no.
All right, thank you. Councilman Keller?
I echo Mr. Happy.
Councilman Compton?
I really liked Jensen. I did not have the opportunity to listen in on Moss Adams, but it sounded like they were the more expensive option and do about the same as Jensen was planning on doing. And Jensen had, being a Portland-based office, being nearby and having a hard cap of 20,000 instead of maybe being more or less, and it could be less if we have, our requirements are significantly less than what they propose, and we can spend significantly less. But we will never pay more than 20,000, which is important. I liked U of O, and all those people, it's their passion is to do things like this, and they have, from what I've read, has done some small cities, and even smaller villages, if not villages, not even an incorporated town. It's a bunch of small little places, and I would say that those are my two favorite.
Okay. Jensen and U of O.
Yes, I also would like to mention that to get future funds for what we would like our town to be and to get grants, we do need to have an updated, solid plan. You can't just hand these grant writers and organizations that we're asking millions of dollars from. We went down to the pavilion and asked 100 people of our 1,300 people that this is what they wanted. They would look at them and be like, thank you for your application. We'll take under consideration and then move on to something with a more solid plan. If you're going to spend millions of dollars, you're going to want it to know that it's going where they say it's going.
Thank you, Sean, for saying that. I just wanted to add that Cascade Lock's downtown development plan and strategy is from 2004, and he makes a good point. And having been the city's day in Salem, they said, oh, there's money for the fire department, there's money for this, show us your plan. Show us your plan so that we can help funnel you in the right direction. So he's right, it does seem like a lot of money to spend, and yet it can open the door for more money, probably even some of the Main Street grants that we might be looking into. We have to show them that we have a plan. One of us can't just say, woo, we want to build this
Right.
thing.
I think, to agree with Butch, it is a lot of money. It is. And unfortunately, in this day and age, the days are gone when you can just do a simple town hall and people say what they want, and then we're gonna be opened up to a bunch of grants. It doesn't work that way. You have to have specific criteria. There has to be a plan. How are you gonna implement? We can come up with a best plan, but if we don't have how we're gonna implement it, it doesn't work. So I don't want to see, going down to the state capitol, over to Bend with the LOC, learn a lot. And it's really, really important to have this vision plan. And so the way I kind of look at it is that it's way less than the 60 or 70 grand that the port was paying on it for Moss Adams. So I'm like, heck, this is a bargain, even though it's a lot of money. But I recognize this is something that we need to implement and move forward. And everyone on the council, I mean, I just keep hearing, everyone wants to hear from the city. They want to hear from the residents. I think I have been saying that for the last 2 years with the little survey we did at the picnic. I want to hear what's important to people. Yes, someone asked for Taco Bell, but they get to, I'm not necessarily saying we're going to include that. But as far as the options that we had, the Moss Adams, the 20,000 with travel, that just seemed expensive to me. It seems like for what we were looking, I'm in agreement with the Jensen and the U of O. Jensen, I like that he really talked about the implementation and the experience and the steps, because we can have a plan all day, but if we don't know what we're doing. And so I really like that. I liked he repeatedly talking about engaging the community. Some of the others, U of O, they talked about it as well. But some of the others didn't really focus on that. I think as a council, we can go into detail later, but I think we're looking for more than just one city council. We're looking at, town hall meeting. We want to really make sure everyone has the opportunity. A lot of people, Survey Monkey, not a lot of people are going to use it. Some people will, some people won't. But we can get into the weeds on how we're going to advertise and make sure everybody participates. But I really like Jensen, and it was up to 20,000. So I like that there was a cap on that. The other gentleman, Cedar, thank you. I think he had a lot of good ideas, and I like the idea of maybe implementing them when we do need more architectural advice on that. So I like Jensen and U of O as well.
I know some people have heard from the community about the spending on this. But I appreciate that we see the caps, so that's important as well. And I think that both of those entities, U of O and Jensen, will look at the port's strategic plan when they said they're gonna look at stakeholders. So that helps me feel good that we're not using Moss Adams, which the port is using, because I thought, yay, like, it didn't save us any money anyway. So I think they're all gonna look at the port's plan.
And the U of O did mention plus travel for workshops, so they are adding travel on it.
Oh, no, I thought she said.
No,
It
plus
was,
travel for a workshop.
it was included in that thing. If we wanted to do something different, or if there was more travel included, then it would be more, but it could, based on what they had already
Right.
lined out, it would be already accounted for.
It's in their budget, it's in that max number anyway, but they made a line item in that 12.5. I think same with Jensen. Is that true? Or are they?
Jensen, I don't think was, or they might have had line items for travel, but it was part of
Their full budget.
their whole budget.
And something that you said, Kathy, that I think is worthy of mentioning again, that was another distinguishing factor of Moss Adams, is they're doing the survey at the end versus U of O, and Jensen was right at the very beginning.
Yeah, I like that too. So it sounds like it's between Jensen and U of O. Would that be fair to say?
Or none at all.
Or none at all. Or none at all. Good one.
And I think I really appreciate the fact you brought that up, Butch, because it's so easy to end up on this like decision-making process where you feel like we have to make a decision. And you're right, we don't have to select any of these. I do think though that that $20,000 investment or $12,500 investment in Farmington City could open the pathway to millions of dollars of other grants. And it'd be pretty short-sighted though to trip over the pennies to not pick up the dollars, how do you say that?
And I think we have to admit, there is a lot of new people on this council, and the community needs to have involvement. The community, I think it's important that we have a plan, so when we do our future voting, we can see if it's fitting in the plan or not, and that the community feels like they had input in that plan. So I think it's really important to do this right now, and we do have a public.
Tiffany Pruitt, City of Cascade Locks. Here's your budget, right here. And being your budget committee chairperson, I don't recall there being $12,500 to $20,000 just free in the budget. So I don't know if that's part of next year's budget or if it's going to be part of this year's budget, but I'd be curious to know. That's not a question I expect answered now. But I'd be curious to know where that money is coming from. And I just want to put out a cautionary tone, like I did last week. We've done several vision proposals throughout the cities, and thus far we've gotten different designs for how buildings will look, which is an improvement over the Swedish, whatever the crazy design was before. And then the next one, we got bulb outs. So I just want to strongly recommend caution, because this is only going to be the first part of the amount of money that you're going to spend in order to implement whatever's coming down the turnpike. And I hear the word grants going around a lot, but grants are not always free, and they generally cost your citizens to put something in order to get something back. So times are very difficult right now, and I just would like you to consider that free money isn't always free. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to add, we'll use Vancouver as an example. Back in the early 90s, 80s, early 90s, the city, they had this vision that they wanted to implement downtown Vancouver. And we call it the Couve, or what is that whole area down there? But the whole thing is that if this group of people didn't have this vision and implement it, and take steps to do this vision, they wouldn't have this amazing, beautiful downtown. If any of you have not experienced it, go downtown, right on the water, you'll understand. So I think as a community, what I keep hearing, like for the picnic, is, they want a pharmacy, they want more eating options. There's all these things, a bank, I've heard that several times. But to come up with this, it's not something, it takes a good plan. And so plans, unfortunately, start with surveys, they start with the 20,000. We work towards it on how to implement that, how to find the money. That's all a work in progress. And that can be implemented in part of the budget. But you can't get anywhere unless you know a clear vision and a plan. So I'm gonna say that.
We do have a hand up on. From her.
Thank you. From the iPhone.
Yes. iPhone, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. This is Caroline Lips from my iPhone. I just wanted to make a comment about this this kind of visioning project, and I think it's really wonderful, and I'd like to share an anecdote from our personal experience as business owners in Cascade Locks. We actually came to Cascade Locks because of the Connect Cascade Locks study that the Masters of Urban Planning students did at Portland State University. And it was exactly kind of tied to, what Cascade Locks was kind of envisioning for how they wanted to develop downtown. And part of the reason we came to Cascade Locks and the reason we were able to get funding for our project was because of having these different assets like the downtown development plan and the Connect Cascade Locks trail plan that the Masters of Urban Planning students put together. And, that was now 10 plus years ago. And I think a lot has changed in our community. And I think this is a very small investment that the city is making for the potential that it could bring. And, the Connect Cascade Locks plan really set in motion, not just our business, but other downtown businesses to come and invest money and time and resources into our community. And so I think I applaud you for looking at this, and really $12,000, $20,000, it's really not a lot of money for what could potentially open doors for greater grant funding and other investment opportunities in our community.
All right, thank you. Pete.
Can we afford this? Where is this coming from?
Where my, it was the general fund miscellaneous contracts. Yes, we do have, and our accounting is based off the overall fund. And we have the funds, yes. I will double check with Dave in the morning. Just to double check, but yes.
And then,
I didn't put in a note. I just wanted to quickly state that I support it. I think it's very proactive to have mission, vision, values, goals for any institution, especially a city. It brings us together, cohesion, and forward thinking. So I fully support it. Thank you.
okay, so it looks like Jensen and you will go.
I would like to propose that we accept the University of Oregon strategic plan scope of work. Do I have a second?
Are you motioning?
I motion, or I propose, I motion that.
So there's not a second? Sean, you look like you're gonna say something. I don't want to speak too soon.
No.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
I just want to put out that I was really impressed with Jensen, and I am concerned about the funding a little bit, and I think having worked with U of O and now having heard Carolyn say she did great things with the Portland State University Planning Department and got funds, and that it reaffirmed my belief that they can do a very great job for us and possibly save us $8,000, $7,500 when there are community members concerned about the budget.
Do you think they can help with the information?
Oh, I think they can.
I guess that was the thing that kind of skewed me over from Jensen, was your comments about that. Because ultimately the plan is worthless if we don't do something with it. I feel like that we're really on this precipice of exciting things happening, and a lot of things have been happening in Cascade Locks for a long time, but I feel like the momentum is building, and I feel like we're the key to moving forward is economic development, and we're looking for is that domino to tip over that kind of makes all the other things possible. And really, nothing is possible without revenue, right? And we got to have money coming in order for us to be able to execute any of these things. And I feel like having a strategic plan that we've got community involvement and input on may help us clarify that path forward and identify that domino to tip things over to open up the opportunity for more revenue for the city, which would give us a lot more opportunities.
Plus their timeline, they're ready to jump in. Jensen wanted.
More time.
So there's been a motion, there's been a second. Any other discussion?
like to say something. I'm Brenda, and I would like to, ask you guys to use caution because you do have several of you that are new and haven't even seen a budget. Do you know what's been voted on in the budget? You know, I think people that live here in this community, the main thing that they're worried about is safety and police. And I do believe that we have to have a vision and all that. But if you look back through the years, we have had city halls where they cost very little and they were very effective. We were careful on who we did. Your survey, you simply let anybody fill out a survey. My granddaughter who lives in Sandy, Oregon, filled out one of your surveys. You were letting anybody fill out the survey, so they really they weren't from the people that live in the community like we keep saying. So I would caution you guys until you know what your budget is, like maybe slow it down and look at your budget. Because as far as I know, last I heard that we postponed our financial thing for the city because Dave was still getting our books caught up. Is that still correct?
Yep.
So I would say we should, like, these are some red flags that I don't go spend money before my checkbook is balanced. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to say something, Brenda Cramlett. You know, a lot of people are new on the city council and in our community. And I feel like they think that the people that have been here a long time didn't have any vision. Since I've lived here, which is over 40 years, and Tom's lived here forever.
Tom.
We have had so many strategic plans that we've worked on, and it takes years to implement. I mean, really a long time. So I think people think, no, they had a vision years ago. We've had a lot of vision, but there weren't a lot of people in town. I mean, as a business owner years ago, we didn't have a lot of people here for 6 months out of the year. But we had vision, and what's happening now was when we were in our city council, work commission, we had those visions, but we didn't have enough people, and it took years to implement. So they shouldn't look at us like we don't know anything, and we've never had a vision. What's happening now here, we had visions a long time ago, and it's been through all these years that things have happened. So I hear a lot of people say, oh, all these people that live here forever, they don't know anything. What you're seeing now, we had years ago. So you do have to have a vision, but it's gonna take a long time.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, Tom Brown. That's it. I appreciate that you're heading towards this type of vision, because frankly, as Brenda said, we've done these things. So we've been through just the very thing that you're doing. We went out for grants to look at these things. So you don't move things ahead as well unless you do have people who know how to help put that vision, as you said, put that vision together. So yeah, you need to do. This is the thing you guys want to do for your community, is find out what are things you need to do with it. Put some money into a plan like this, in my opinion, is well worth it. But again, that's where you gotta come in. You gotta follow through on what it is. So that's where it is with you, but it is important to do what you're doing.
Thank you, and I want to say thank you for your service and your years here and the past visions that they're going to build on. They tell us they're going to read to add to and get new information. So all of the past brought us here. None of us would be here if there hadn't been some good visioning and plans to make Cascade Locks a place we wanted to live in. So that's great that we get to add to that.
We had one comment online. Or hand up.
And
Clayton.
Clayton?
Yeah, Kathy, you made some good points about those grants and stuff. That is kind of true. You do need sort of a plan towards that. And I just wanted to make sure that Yeah, $20,000 does seem like a lot of money for a small town. And I just want to remind people that, if you guys have this in your charter, that, it's hard to raise tax revenues without, vote out to the people. It seems like that seems to me a good place to start. Is if we go and get this, opinions from these consultants about these great ideas, and then nobody is in favor of spending money. It just seems like something to consider is to, engage the public maybe first. I'm not against you guys getting this strategic plan. That seems like a good idea. But maybe engaging the public first and then contracting that seems to me a better order for it. But I understand the consultant's going to help do some of that too. So, but just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I just want to say, that I don't, addressing your point, Ms. Kremlin, that I don't think that we as a council believe that the people of the past haven't had visions and tried to enact them and move forward, and you did implement stuff. The town is not the same as it was in 2004 when this plan was written. It has changed, it has grown. In 2004, the world's changed a lot since 2004. We're no longer, the pandemic has changed a lot. The housing market's changed. There's almost not enough housing in this town anymore for it to even grow, to fulfill the needs of the people that want to be here. And that's why I think this strategic plan is a step forward we need to take in order to make these improvements to our wonderful town.
Any other comments?
Yeah, it's gonna.
I got more to say.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you adding that, and I certainly didn't want to come across like I was saying that, nothing of importance happened before last year, because I don't agree with that. But what I do think that has changed is, and what you're bringing up, Sean, is that there really is not enough housing in the gorge at all, and it's creating a lot of pressure on our community, because this is a place where I know that the term of affordable housing is, we'll put that in quotes, but you can't get a house in the river for, financeable house that are under $600,000. Anything under that wouldn't meet the requirements for a mortgage. A lender wouldn't sign off on that loan. So I just think that the pressure that's on our city with the people that want to move this direction is what's kind of accelerating that momentum that we're feeling, that things are changing at a very rapid rate. And that's why I feel like it's important for us to have a really comprehensive and clear plan with where we're moving forward. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to make informed, educated decisions.
Any other? Okay, so there's been a motion, there's been a second. Is everybody clear about the motion, or does it need to be restated? Okay, we're gonna move to a vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmerling Baker,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so let's move on. Next on the list. Contract for legal services specific to industrial electrical users.
Right, so with the discussion of a data center possibly coming in, there's concerns about the amount of electricity they'll use. And essentially they would come in, we do all this work for them, and then data centers, Bitcoin miners, all those guys are not known as stable entities, for lack of a better word. So they come in, we essentially do all this work. We have to forecast the amount of power we believe we're gonna have to buy from BPA. And so we tell BPA, we're gonna need 10 megawatts, they back out, and we're back down to 5 megawatts, we're left holding back.
So you say that one more time?
It's a very, BPA is a very convoluted system. So they we have to forecast the amount of power we think as a city we're gonna sell and give to our customers. Right now, we're at a high water mark of about 4.5 megawatts. When this whole thing is up and running, it's gonna be 11 megawatts. So almost tripling what we actually use as a city right now. And so we say, okay, we're gonna bump up to 15 megawatts. They go out and they claim that they're purchasing. And then if we don't use it, they will sell it, usually at a discounted rate. So we end up paying for electricity that we end up not giving to the customer.
I see, so the issue is that if they back out, then we're on the hook for
Correct.
that, energy that's being resold at a reduced rate.
Correct. So I met with the folks at North Wasco PUD who have done all this with Google and other data centers. I met with the director of the port down there. They recommended this company, Cable Houston. I met with them. They pretty much said that if we agree to this and they do their job right, any cost we incur from them, the data center pays. It'll all just be a pass through.
How does that work?
We essentially say, okay, we enter an MOU with them saying we want to figure this out, but you have to pay an upfront fee, cost, deposit of whatever, $25,000, $50,000 to help us cover the cost of getting this ball rolling.
That's the roundhouse.
That's roundhouse, yes.
But this is not saying that we're going to agree with the house.
They're just saying they gotta pay the lawyer's fees.
This is to make sure the city is covered.
Got it. And they get back out of that and say no, and then we're.
Correct, and Ruben has looked at the agreement, he's good with it, and if I heard you right, your uncle works for them?
Medical does work for Cable Houston.
Not that it would be conflict of interest, but
Didn't even know that. Yeah, there's no conflict.
yeah.
So we don't have to pay Cable Houston even for the initial work?
So they invoice, and we pay them, but we get money, we essentially have a deposit from Roundhouse. It's kind of, okay, we got 25,000, they billed us for 5,000, we'll take 5,000 out of that deposit.
There would be no invoice unless we had that signed MOU with Roundhouse that would agree to the.
They would help us write that down.
So. If I understand it, if that MOU is drafted and they sign off on it, then we would move forward with Cable Houston, we get invoiced and we already have the deposit to cover that.
And if they don't sign off on it,
Then
in Roundhouse?
port is out of a potential tenant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it is our interest to work with it. I mean,
So,
but I just want to try and protect the city.
Yes.
so I have some concerns on F, conflicts of interest. It says we have completed an initial review for any potential or actual conflicts of interest that may arise in connection with the scope of representation described above. Holy cow, it's a lot, right? It says we've concluded that we have no actual potential conflicts of interest. As we discussed, other members of the firm currently represent the port. So in this company, they do represent the port.
Correct.
Right, so it said, should Cascade Locks become adverse to the port of Cascade Locks with respect to any transition or dispute, whether in connection or with the scope of representation or otherwise, then we may have to, or we may choose to withdraw from representation of one or both clients.
Yeah.
So it's saying they don't have a conflict, but yet they could.
Yes,
Is that right?
if for something happens and
If
we,
one arises.
Right, so then would we be back to square one, or what happens?
we probably have to work with Ruben on that, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Oh, I
You're a
can't,
busy guy tonight.
no, I know, but what's really complicated here is that they're also your attorneys at this point presenting this agreement. And so I can't get between that relationship.
That's fair.
In a way, I see that, but in a way, I almost think that that has a benefit as well, that words will be written in good faith. But maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, if they're also working with the port, I don't know.
It could work the other way.
But as long as we're not on the hook, if they withdraw from representation, we don't have to pay them for their previous.
I think we'd still be on the hook for the work they provided. There would be a termination of anything going forward.
Yeah.
As I understand it, there wouldn't be any like, oh, we're not to pay the bill. This, as I understand it, they've done a review of everything they have currently in a caseload, and they don't see any sort of open issues that could potentially provide a conflict of interest.
And even, if I understand right, even if they do withdraw from us as a client, that money is still covered under the MOU with the business.
I haven't seen this MOU, so I don't know.
Well, this theoretical, nothing's been written yet, they would help us write.
Which would probably be like, it would fork over the money to pay for the lawyer.
Mhm.
Even if they do withdraw, that money is still part of that deal.
Correct.
So we would be without representation at that point, but we also wouldn't be without, like, cop holding the bag.
Mhm.
In this representation, will we be able to set parameters on the contract or an MOU with Roundhouse
Oh, yeah.
to make sure that resident bills do not increase over the tier 2?
Mhm.
And also that Roundhouse must cover all costs above tier 2?
Oh, exactly, that's the whole point of it, is so that the residents' rates can stay the same and they cover every penny above. That was, yeah, because if we don't do this right, we would get screwed. The city would, it would not be good.
So this is a law firm that specializes with, or has knowledge, bring that, has knowledge of working with data centers.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Large industrial users.
Okay. Are there any other firms that have the same experience but don't work with the port?
I'm sure, but I don't know who they are. I didn't know they worked for the port until after they sent this. I talked to them, they sent it, and yeah.
How soon will we be wanting this MOU?
I know Roundhouse is wanting to get things moving, so they'd like to get something put together sooner than later. Their Roundhouse is really pushing, they want to get this thing settled and moving forward. But again, it's our timeline.
Right. So I also know there's a lot of different community members that want to have input about the whole data center.
Yes, and there's more of that later in my report.
Okay, perfect,
Yes.
perfect.
So I do like the idea of having a data specialty company representing what we're doing and we respect that you're there for us too. So,
No, it does make sense in this instance, because getting someone who does particularly work with municipal utilities and on a day-to-day basis, I think will be a valuable asset in negotiating this deal.
I motion to move forward and accept Cable Houston as our legal guidance in terms of establishing an MOU with Roundhouse.
I second.
Discussion. Tiffany, had your hand up?
I just have a question for Mr. Bennett. When you say they will help, so Cable, who's they? They will help write the MOU.
Cable Houston,
And they're also representing the port,
the port, yes, but not Roundhouse.
but not Roundhouse.
Correct.
Oh, okay, and then our city attorney will look it over and make sure that it's.
No, that'll be between Cable Houston, basically you're bringing another attorney into the mix, and that attorney-client relationship will most likely stay separate.
But that attorney represents both the port and the city.
Correct.
Any other comments?
You have a few people on.
Okay. iPhone user, hands up. State your name.
Rachel Najar.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about this data center. First of all, I confirmed that we're actually using 6.5 to 7 megawatts in the city right now. So that's inaccurate information that the administrator is sharing. And we really need to have a load study done, I think, to see if our electric grid can hold it. And there needs to be a lot of thought put into this, signing a 25-year lease and with plans of intent to buy. That's very concerning. there's no environmental impact study that's been done or proposed, and they want to sign the lease by April 1st.
Rachel?
So, yeah.
Rachel, can I interrupt you just for one moment?
Mhm.
We're voting on the, we're not voting that, yes, we're doing the MOU or anything like that. There is a time, we're not that part in the agenda yet, but there's a point where appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives. I think that's where you really want to have your 3 minutes. Would that be correct?
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify about the megawatts, that it's not actually, it's more like 6.5, 7.
Okay. All right. Any other comments?
So right now, we're discussion about the motion that's on the table for
Correct.
whether or not we ought to accept a contract for legal services.
Correct.
We've got,
Include the legal services again, please.
Cable
Houston, CABLE, Cable Houston, SHUSTON. Right.
we still have one person that's got
Oh.
the hand raised there. Not Rachel, it's another
Is that
iPhone.
Caroline again?
Is that iPhone user Caroline? Maybe her hand never came.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This is Caroline. I guess I have a clarification question. Are you voting to determine the legal agency to be used for an MOU, or are you voting on moving forward with an MOU?
No, what legal, if we want to use this legal firm as our representation moving forward with an MOU and other further discussions with Roundhouse.
Okay, so my comment is due to the controversial nature of the proposal by Roundhouse, I would really suggest that the city retains a separate legal agency to represent the city's interests and needs, because if it isn't known yet, the port general manager has just resigned due to the port's kind of, I guess you could call sketchy negotiations with Roundhouse. And I think that's something that the public should be aware of, and something that the port manager has agreed to allow to be public information, is that part of her resignation is because of her concern with how the port is handling negotiations with Roundhouse. And I would caution the city in proceeding by using the same legal agency that the port is also using in an MOU. That's all.
All right, thank you. Tiffany, one more.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a real quick question. So who pays for this cable Houston, and how much are we anticipating it's gonna cost?
So the rate is $495 an hour. And the goal of it is to have Roundhouse pay for it.
The goal is, but we're not sure.
Correct, that's why we're working on, we want to get them to help us write an MOU.
If we write an MOU.
Right.
If, we're not saying we are, it's if, but we need legal counsel to help with that, to make sure that the city, if it goes through, that we're legally protected.
Is there an anticipation of how many hours it would take to write this?
No, not tomorrow.
So it's possible that we could draft an MOU and then the other party would just throw in the towel and walk away, at which point we'd be on the hook for the invoice for drafting that.
It is possible, yes, there will maybe some cost, yeah.
But it seems like they're pretty motivated.
They really,
I guess when I hear you say that, Mr. Happy, I feel like this is a CYA situation where we're going to be covered by the legal guidance. And if we have to spend 30 grand, I would much rather do that, just like we're talking about, just keep the plan, do it in preventive measures rather than get on the hook for $1 million or whatever.
Right. It seems like there's very low risk, in my opinion, right? I mean, the really potentially on the hook for is drafting the MOU.
Yeah.
I do think that it's a really valid concern that's been brought up by several people, that they're also representing the port and to also represent us. But I like the fact that Cable Houston's got experience and their specialty is with They've got prior experience with data centers. How did we find that? It was just when you reached out to.
North Wasco PUD recommended it. That's who they've used with a lot of their negotiations.
And how did the port end up working with them and then?
That I don't know. I don't. You know how long they've been with them?
Oh,
A while.
Started when I was on that commission.
It's been a few years. It's been quite a few.
And I guess that just comes down to the ethics of their, they have professional ethics that they have to abide by. And,
Not totally.
I don't think that, well, I think it's a valid concern. I think that it's probably not real relevant, because I think if there was a conflict of interest, they would have to address that.
All right, any other discussion? There was a motion
And seconded.
and seconded. So roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Happy.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right. Now we move on to appearance of interested citizens. I hope Rachel is still on. Is she still on?
Yeah, I'm here, Kathy.
Okay, all right. I apologize for interrupting you last time, but I want to make sure you had a full 3 minutes on to voice your concerns. Or
Thank you. I just want to be really cautious about entering into anything. I mean, I read the MOU and it just reads like a wish list. There's nothing that's factual. There's nothing that's concrete. There's a lot at stake. And, I feel like it sounds like it's been a lot behind closed doors and not really talked about in the community. And we really need to talk about it together and get on the same page, because as you've seen in the Dalles, they've had the data center and it's taken all their water. Now I know that they say they're going to use a different coolant system, but there's no guarantees. As it says in the MOU, they're saying that this is innovative and cascade locks could be the future, which sounds like we're an experiment. And there's just so many things. Like, we really need an environmental impact study before we even think about anything. The MOU just talks about things like they're green and so like a dreamy company, but it's not looking at the full picture. I mean, that would change Cascade Locks drastically, and I would just like to be included in that. And I also, I don't really understand, the port is making the decision. It's port property, but what is the role that the city plays in that? Does it go to vote with the city before? I care about our community, and I know that everybody does. And I've been looking at our comprehensive plan and the goals and values that we have. And to me, after reading the MOU, it does not align with any that we have in our community. So I just hope that we have more conversation about it. Thanks.
I would like to clarify one thing when she said, after City Administrator Jordan listed how much electricity is being used, he is the head of our utility, and he would know the exact numbers. So I would trust what he's saying in the exact numbers. That
I will clarify that 4.5 is the average over the year. We do use a peak in the winter closer to 7.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I agree with that.
okay. All right. So here, I've got a whole stack here. Is it Chrissy or Chrissy? Yeah. We have a seat. Read it. Thank you.
Mayor Fallon and members of the city council, thank you for having me tonight. My name is Chrissy Wright, and I represent Cascade Locks and West Hood River on the Hood River County School District Board of Directors. And it's been a long time since I've been here, and there are a lot of new faces. So I wanted to make sure I came by and said hello and introduce myself. And tonight I just want to go over a few things that are happening for Cascade Locks students in our schools and let you know what's going on. So at Cascade Locks Elementary School, the kitchen just reopened, so all the food for the kids at Cascade Locks Elementary School is now going to be made in the kitchen at Cascade Locks. That was a great thing for the students and families there. All single grade classes at Cascade Locks this year, elementary school, except for second and third are still blended. But those classes each get core instruction in their grade level, and they have interventionists in their grade level to help anybody that's falling behind. So that was also a really great thing, and that's due to the increased enrollment, which is fantastic. Cascade Locks Elementary School has an amazing PTO. I saw Mayor Fallon at the bingo night, which was really, really fun, and just really great support from this community. It has grown in the 8 years that I've been representing them, and it's really fun to see. Avid is being used at Cascade Locks Elementary School. It was the first elementary school to get it. A lot of resources have been put in there, and it has just been amazing. If you walk into that school and ask any of the kids for their binder, they know exactly what they're talking about. And I'd love to tell you about Avid anytime. It is a really, really great program. And you can contact me and I'll talk to you about it forever. We now have a full-time student support specialist, a counselor at Cascade Locks Elementary School. And this Friday, they're doing Read Across America. It's a national thing, and I'll be there. And if anybody else wants to volunteer, I know they're looking for people to do that. Hood River Middle School. We just opened a new secure vestibule. So now you cannot enter that school without first interacting with an adult. It used to be that there were lots of open doors. It was very weird where the office was, and that is no more. There's a very clear delineation, and that's fantastic. That is our last school in the entire district to get a secure vestibule. I'm really very proud of that. They have a new principal this year. There's been a lot of changes, and it's really a very positive thing. They also have a very strong Avid program that's continuing to grow, and we're adding additional middle school sports during this next year. Hood River Valley High School, there's a walk-in this weekend. Again, they are looking for volunteers if anybody wants to come and hang out with me. Forecasting is happening now, so that's when all students get to go and decide what classes they want to take, and there is a book of classes. So they go down to Hood River Middle School, all the kids get to forecast for the following year. We just added this year a finance and business CTE pathway, engineering and computer science pathway. And to add to it, there's just lots of really great things going on in our schools. And anytime you want to talk to me, Chrissy writes at hoodriver.k12.org. I love questions, and I would love to interact with anybody in Cascade Locks at any time. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Last summer.
Do I get to answer questions?
Yes. Last summer, the summer lunch program.
Mhm.
They were requiring students, if you were on the bus going to summer school, you got a lunch if you went up to Hood River. But for the other kids that were on the lunch program, they had to go to Hood River to get it.
Not sure. So it did happen that there was not enough, unfortunately, not enough volunteer hours in Cascade Locks, but we worked very closely with the food bank, and we got all kids who needed lunches here in Cascade Locks through the food bank. So that, you're right, the program didn't go through the same center, but Hood River County School District worked directly with food bank in order to make sure every kid that wanted a meal got a meal every day. Yeah.
I did. I just want to say thank you for your volunteering with the school district and for coming this evening and talking to us. Do we have any sort of community resource officer at the elementary school in Cascade Locks, being that we are so remote?
Yeah, we do not have, we actually have no, we have one resource officer for the entire district, and that he's based at the high school. But he does go out to the different schools periodically throughout the year and do some teaching. But no, there is not one for any elementary school. There's none in the middle schools. There's just the one resource officer, and he is split between all of them.
And then you spoke a little bit about kind of the entrances and the way that that's improved at the middle school and the river. How is it at the elementary school?
Cascade Locks has a secure vestibule. So when we passed the bond in 2016, I believe, that was one of the major things, was security throughout all of our schools. And so the ones that we could do very quickly, we did, and Cascade Locks Elementary School has had a secure vestibule for, I think, over a year now. It's been quite a while. Hood River Middle School was just a very hard building to fix because of the age of it. It's actually on a historic registry, and it's been added to, it's actually a campus and not just an individual school. So it took us the longest, and we also had some issues with the city and permit and whatnot, but we worked through all of that, and it just opened, and it is beautiful, and I would encourage anybody to take a look at it. And so all of our schools, you cannot enter without first interacting with an adult.
Thank you. for that
Yeah,
clarification.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Appreciate the time.
All right, Michaela Keller.
Hey, thank you. My name is Michaela Keller. I am representing the Cascade Lot School PTO. So a good segue after Chrissy was able to chat. I'm currently the Cascade Lots PTO president, and I'm coming before you with a couple of different asks as well as just some information. So we are planning our first ever casino night fundraiser, and it's going to be off-site and at the Port Pavilion. And so we plan on serving alcohol. We have an OLCC license that is in the works. I chatted with them today. We should have it back to me by the end of the week. But I understand that this needs to go before the council. And so I'm coming to you sort of preemptively to make you aware of it in hopes that when that makes it back to me, I can pass it your way and you'll know what it's about. And any questions you might have, I can go over tonight. So that's the first ask. Second is to just make you aware of the fundraiser. We're trying to, this is gonna be our big fundraiser for the year. It will be April 15th. It's gonna be down at the port. We will have, we're gonna launch and get everything going as far as tickets as of the 1st. So March 1st, start looking for things to really get going. Request related to that is actually in the form of money from this body, requesting $700 to be able to use for purchasing gift cards to use as thank yous for all of our numerous volunteers that are going to be put towards putting time towards this event, specifically our bartenders that are going to be coming in as volunteers, as well as our childcare providers that we're going to be able to have. So the hope is to be able to provide gift cards to each of them, and it shouldn't exceed that $700 window. But hopefully we have as many people as we can get, and so that's where that comes from. So I don't know if that needs to be officially requested, but that would be a request. Additionally, just asking for help. This is a community-based entity. We are here supporting the schools and our children, and any time that there's any opportunity for you as elected officials to help us do this better, we would ask for your help with that. So things that we need to sort of bolster our abilities to pull this off are volunteers. If you're interested, come and contact me. We're also looking for silent auction items. So if you have any ideas on what that might look like, or you're really excited about doing baskets or things, feel free to participate and send those our way. Additionally, we are providing an opportunity for sponsorship of the event and sponsorship of tables. So it's a casino night. We will have casino tables and different games coming in. So that is another way that we're looking to help bring in as much funding as possible to help support the kids. So, thank you.
Question, I know with wedding events that are down at the pavilion, one thing that always comes up is the hours of time. So
yeah, so we are
you'll
looking
need to ask if you're extending the hours.
We will be operating between 7 and 10 o'clock. So I understand that's
Good,
good.
you're good.
Window. Okay,
Yeah, on that time. Don't cut. All right.
okay, thank you.
All right. Tiffany, you were down there, but you had addressed this.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Carrie, who? Is it right?
Hi, everyone, Mayor, council people. I'm Carrie, I'm a local resident. And I just first wanted to say I respect the heck out of all of you for spending so much of your free time as public service officers. This is not an easy job, just sitting in on my first council session. So thank you so much all for your service. I just wanted to request formally a town hall between the city, the port, and the community to discuss the data center, to give the citizens of this county and city a chance to voice their concerns with the data center and get some answers, and have the port involved along with the city so we can all sit down together. That is a formal request. I don't know how that happens. if there's like a 30-day notice that needs to go out or what the process is, but just wanted to put it out there. Also, I'm hosting a meeting at Gorge's on Wednesday for the community to get together and without the court, without the city, so we can kind of figure out an action plan of how we all feel, what our questions are, and just kind of formulate a path forward from the community side of the house.
So you don't want port or city government to be there Wednesday night at Gorge's?
They can, they're welcome to show up, but it's not to represent the court or the city, just as a community matter.
Well, I planned on being there just to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. You are completely welcome to be there.
As long as there's not more than 3 of you. Don't do that.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. You're up.
Okay, a little show and tell
With the
everybody.
bucket, I'm
Yes.
looking at your bucket the
Yes,
whole
ma'am.
time.
So, I know I'm not alone when I say I love Cascade Locks. And one thing that, I would like to see is a clean Cascade Locks. So, the small part I do in that is I have a tenant lives with me, and I take his dog out, and we walk around, it's about a mile, and we pick up litter. And, you know, while that part of town is pretty clean, you know, we do a good job, we get everything, cigarette butts, it's nice and sparkly clean. You know, there's more to Cascade Locks than a little piece. So I wanted to invite the community to also help me in this task. And what I'm asking, I'd like to just kind of put out the word, is to say, if you would like to agree to do a walk once a week, I will get you a bucket and I will split a picker with you. I'll pay half of it. And then you can pick a piece of the city and we'll keep that piece of that stretch of road clean. And I would love to coordinate it so we're not overlapping if we need to do that, if we get enough folks. But I just wanted to encourage other people to help me keep Cascade Locks clean. It's very simple. You get a little exercise. If you have a dog, you walk your pup. I get mail when I do it, so I knock out a couple of items. Plus, you know, I pick up some litter and keep road town going. So that's all I have.
Question, how much is it?
It's like $20 per picker.
All right, so
So
you're
I'll
on
pay
record.
it for 10. That's me.
And you're gonna order it?
Huh?
You're gonna order it?
Well,
and then they
No,
clarify it.
so if they agree to do it, they buy it and then they come and I'll give them the money.
Okay.
I'll pay half.
You have contact info you're sharing about that, or?
Well, I'd love to do word of mouth. Most people know where I live. My email is my first name, Bernard, RS04 @gmail. Just tell anybody, they know, most of you guys know I'm up on regulator 110. And,
Put it in minutes.
yes, put that on the minutes. And then, please, send them my way and we'll get them hooked up. And we'll have, the thing about litter, it keeps coming, you know? So you have to keep at it. That's why I'm asking folks to do it just once a week. If we do that, it will be a beautiful town from a litter perspective. And then we'll work on other things. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, Bernard. I am a witness to what you did.
Okay. Any other? Of course there's one. Go ahead.
Just quickly.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you because.
Help me out. Come join with me.
Oh, no, I have bags. I'm a hiker and I have trash bags in every.
There you
backpack,
go.
and I pick up
Love it.
at
Thank
the,
you.
trails. So thank you
Me
for
too.
doing it. And before we have our community meeting, I wanted to ask you guys if you know who Roundhouse is.
Who they are.
Yes. Who?
They're a business based out of Pennsylvania. I know that.
Okay, so when you look at the MOU, it says Roundhouse Digital Infrastructure, Inc. And I haven't been able to find a company in that name.
I've just been told they're based out of Pennsylvania. More, other than that, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so
The
then I
port might
propose
know.
that be one of our issues.
I think
Find out who they are.
You might want to check Delaware and Nevada Secretary of State listings, because a lot of companies are based out of those two states that have good corporate tax laws.
Okay, or Texas too.
Okay. Moving on, city committees?
Tourism was gonna report, but they were not able to make it.
Okay,
So
all right.
it should be here next week.
Okay. Columbarium.
All right, I'm talking about dead people. My morbid thinking. So at the June 13th, 2022 meeting, council approved the purchase and installation of a columbarium niche from OM Stone for placement in the city cemetery using administration capital reserve funds. The cost was $21,073, an estimated cost of $1,000 for prep and pour of a concrete foundation, and another $1,000 for replacement and moving the flagpole. Slab and flagpole work to be completed by the city's public works staff. Sales columbarium would pay back the cost and revenue beyond that will go into the cemetery trust fund. There's a breakdown of cost and expected revenue. The original thought was to put it where the flagpole currently is in the middle of the cemetery. After Public Works talked with the people we bought it from between the forklift and the columbarium itself, the weight's gonna be 24,000 pounds rolling across our grass, and then at least a handful of headstones with where it was originally thought to be placed. So we have some concerns of the damage it could possibly do to the grass and headstones. So Public Works Director Price and I, yeah, okay. Went out and looked, and we came up with a secondary solution or position, and that is located on the maps in your packet. It is along the parking lots, right along the trees. There's a bush we'd have to remove, but it would be a nice clean spot. We could come in through the main gate, turn and place the columbarium without running over any fences. There may be a sprinkler line we might have to move around a little bit, but that would be the biggest step. So our question is, how important is it in the original placement? And are you okay with the secondary proposed position?
I always thought that the better siding for it would be along the fence, because then you could stretch it all the way around. Just setting it in the center, you're kind of limited, because then you have grave sites all around.
Yeah, that was kind of our thing, is that there wouldn't be any room for a service.
Right.
That was another thing we talked about.
So if it's placed along the fence facing in, we could stretch more of them around the perimeter.
Yeah, you're talking that back fence?
Yeah, the back fence, all the way around,
But do we still have to go over the grass to do that?
just for,
Wait,
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be done. It would have to be right with the season if it's muddy and spring, but we could do it, winter when it's frozen or summer.
Can we make a time to go out there and meet? And
Yeah, we can.
I'm much more visual.
Yeah, I try to get good pictures. I don't know how well they turned out, but.
I applaud your pictures.
I also respect that you walked around and found a good spot. How soon is it ready to be placed?
It's ready. It's been sitting in the warehouse for about 2 months now.
So we spent a lot of money and we could start making money back if it's placed and we sell those.
Correct. So I have the map up on the TV, but you're talking this back fence right here.
well,
Where's
from
the park?
the gates down in the lower,
Correct, yeah.
the
Here's
edge of the trees.
Okay.
So it could start there and go all the way along that fence and
Right
then
here?
back along the shrubs.
You're talking this fence right here?
No, back over the other side of the trees, right there.
Okay.
Now come along, then just follow the perimeter.
Oh, okay. So one of the concerns brought up with that is that there are already plots there. The goal was to not use where there's already a plot. They don't want to lose potential revenue.
So where are we proposing?
Can
some
you
of this
show me?
map?
Move your.
So essentially kind of right where that thing is, you can't really see it. But there's it's a weird little cove where there were no plots laid out there. And it's in that hand-drawn map on there. I did write it in red, but it obviously didn't translate. So if you look at this map here, this little dash line is the path that it would take to get in from this side gate to the right of the trees. And it's not accurate on this map, but they would run over, where did my mouse go? They would run over these 3 headstones right here. There would be no way to avoid them.
No.
Because the gate is right here.
Thank you for this map. I don't need to be there. This is good. I can see.
So like I said, our other thought was right here, it'd be kind of a sharp turn, but we place it right here.
And where would people have it serviced, or there's a spot underneath?
There is a little more room right there. That's, as you can see, the original idea, it is a tight fit. It would fit right there, but you have people standing on graves and headstones during service.
I'd have to probably recuse myself because where your pointer was at right there, that's my Aunt Desi and cousin Pat.
I mean, we could get around it, but it's a tight fit, so.
Do we need to vote on this, or can we just?
So it's sitting in their warehouse. They'd like to get it out of their warehouse, but they're not really pushing.
I mean, do we need a consensus, or we vote?
That was what I wanted, consensus, yeah. I mean, we don't really need to vote. That's why it's in the presentation, not. I mean, it's already been, it's been bought, it's been made. I just want a consensus on where it should be located.
Is there any reason we couldn't put, like, Bush's concern about like expanding this to when this fills up, we could get another and expand? Would it be a problem to have them in slightly different locations, or do they need to be all next to each other?
I agree with you. If we could put this one in this one, it's been decided, and then talk about expansion later when that comes up to other spots. I've been to cemeteries where there's different spots.
I kind of like the idea of it being close to the entrance there, because that way people will see it and they will get the idea that we're putting more in there, be more available.
So yeah, there's, and
on a side note, if people don't know it, there is a Civil War grave in the cemetery.
yeah, all those ones in the way back. I haven't yet to go back there, but I mean, so in this picture here, I know it's not the greatest, this plant right here would have to come out. That's essentially right where it would go. Yeah.
I like the spot that you chose, that there isn't homes backing up into it. It's like it's
That was, and we looked along this fence line here. It's just, there's a bench here, there's some trees, it'd be a tight fit with these graves here. And it just, up against those houses, we have to probably put more investment into making it a little cleaner on those fence lines.
Yeah, I think we must respect the current grades. So
not put up this
certainly we
giant-
have to not.
I guess to Butch's point, there's along this fence line here, there are none that are sold. I mean, they're still open. It's not like somebody's bought them already, but the original discussion was to not remove any already plotted graves or sites. So if you guys approve, as soon as the weather turns nice enough, Public Works will start the slab pour and we'll get it going.
Sounds good to me. Good,
In favor?
good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good, all right. City administrator report.
Another one? Yeah, I got it right here. Not too much going on. When I sent this out last week, I did the one board event, was really good. Briefly talked with Senator Bonham and Representative Helfrich. They were swamped with people. So I didn't get too much time to talk with them, but I did meet a lot of our partners in the Dalles, Hood River, the bridge replacement folks over in Hood River, the folks that run the mobile clinic on Wednesday. So there's a lot of really good connections. So hopefully they continue it next year and we can go from there. LOC conference is open. I know Kathy, Pete, Denise, and Butch have already registered for it. I have registered as well. I know you two have jobs. How dare you? The Comedy Gorge Tourism Summit was supposed to be last Thursday. It was canceled due to the snow apocalypse. So it's rescheduled for May 3rd, first week of May. A couple things not on this is the Bradford Island Restoration Advisory Board has been selected. I am on that board, and they will be having a good portion of their meetings in this room. Their first kickoff meeting is March 20th. It's not, it's gonna be a very slow rolling board, because it's a super fun that's not gonna be cleaned quickly, but it is moving forward. A reminder that we have our work session on the 4th here, 9 a.m. this Saturday. We'll have some bagels and muffins and some fruit in the morning, and then we're getting boxed lunches from Bridgeside. What were the choices? Or did we get choices?
We got 3 of each.
3 of each.
Turkey club, turkey, yeah.
Okay.
So I have to be gluten-free.
I can bring my own gluten-free things.
And then I touched on it earlier, the joint work session was also canceled because of the weather that was set for the 23rd, that same day. The port has reached out wanting to reschedule it March 15th, which is also a day they proposed to do an open house at that data center with Rec House. I know Denise, you emailed me saying you had class that night. I think Eric or somebody had.
I was just wanting to do it.
You wanted it sooner, that's what it was, yeah. So that's the date they proposed, March 15th, and I haven't told them one way or another, unless I talk to you guys. I think 6 o'clock at the same time.
And just when you say joint work session, I know we were gonna be there, so that makes it a public
It is a public
meeting.
Yep.
And so you know that.
Yeah.
An open house.
Yeah, exactly what,
The right forum, or the same forum as the town hall, so I'm not sure if it was live.
No, but it might be quite informational.
Definitely plan on attending.
Yeah, if you have a quorum, go ahead and announce it, because there's no harm in announcing it, that the quorum may be there.
Would we have to record that session? Yeah, and we need to make sure that we're prepared for.
the port called the meeting, so it is their responsibility to be the recorder. I will bring the OWL system because they don't have one, so we can at least have it virtual.
So, and then if you just want to do some minutes for who's showing, who's there, who's attending, there aren't going to be any motions, so you don't actually have to have any minutes regarding motions. You don't have to have a verbatim recording. You just have to have at least some minutes showing who was there in attendance. Then you're covered as far as the public meetings law.
Jordan?
That's all I got, sorry.
That's it?
That was it, yes.
All right, let's do mayor and city council comments.
All right.
You're up.
Well, hey, I think that one of the things became really apparent this evening is we can debate everything. So I just want to say that I feel like if we're gonna be in this position, I think that's okay. And I think that it's gonna be uncomfortable and it's gonna be unpleasant at times, and we're not always gonna agree. But I really appreciate the fact that so many people, I guess, there was a lot of collaboration. I felt like everybody had a chance to speak up and share their opinion. Not just folks at the city council, but so many people that were representing the city themselves. So I guess that just warms my heart a little bit to feel like, you know, we live in this amazing place where there's so much community involvement and so much passion. And that makes me really proud. But I did really specifically want to mention and call out and recognize Chrissy, Michaela, Carrie, Bernard, Tom, and Tom's wife's name, Brenda. Just really, I feel like there was a lot of important issues that we talked about this evening, and it was nice to get input from everybody who was present. Spring conference, thank you for mentioning about the scholarship. I filled out my application and I got a scholarship granted for not only registration, but also hotel. So thank you for that. That's really all I got.
Denise?
I just want to thank everybody that showed up tonight on Zoom and in person. It means a lot to hear your voice again, even if we disagree. And I want to thank the proposals companies that shared their proposals with us, and their spent time coming out tonight, and all the discussion that occurred. And the staff for getting all of this paperwork to us and all the work that you do. Thank you, Ruben, for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We asked you many more questions than we originally told you that we wanted to hear for. And I just want to thank everybody, even with our different opinions. I do feel like we did have a respectful debate, and I appreciate that. I remember the League of Oregon Cities in one of the meetings saying, you're a team, and you're gonna get things together when you work together, even when you disagree, and support one another once the decision's made. So I appreciate that. I do hope then, apparently we're gonna follow up with the 2 weeks and the posting of a vacancy again, that we will have at least a similar discussion that we did with the proposals about who we might choose before we make a motion, jump right in. I don't know without all that it comes with changing the rules in our charter that we can ask for much more than that. But, and on that note, with our plan, I do agree, it was mentioned in our last meeting, the gentleman that does neighborhood watch, and then tonight with Brenda, that we really need to start thinking about police services, sometime getting that on the agenda. And I'm not sure with public comment, then do we put that on the agenda like a proposal from Michaela for funding? Or I think there was something else that we might put on the agenda that somebody brought up tonight.
Town hall event.
The town hall, do we put those on the agenda when people bring those up?
That's up to you guys.
And would this be the place to say, let's put it on the agenda, or do we email the mayor and the city administrator later? I would like
Council
to.
rules have something about the city administrator and the mayor doing the agenda, but the council members can request that items be placed on there.
So I'm requesting that those be on the agenda, but you do that later. And then again, on the lines of safety, code enforcement, I hope will come up on our agenda sometime. How do we look at our budget and find some hours? I know in the League of Oregon Cities meetings, which are very valuable, because you get to talk to other cities your size, and what are you doing? How'd you pay for that? And it had been advised to maybe hire a couple of hours of code enforcement from a nearby city. But anyway, sometime getting the safety on our agenda, both sheriff and code enforcement.
Councilor Miller?
I'd like to thank staff for all their hard work. And I'd like to thank everybody who participated tonight. There are too many names to mention. We have a couple pressing issues. It seems like the Bridge of the Gods Motel has received some sort of contract on their housing parolees, and they are causing a problem. I contacted our Hood River County government to see who was involved in administration, suggested it's adult parole and probation, or it could be the district attorney. And so I wrote a letter to Les Perkins. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I asked him for help in finding out who was putting out this contract to house people there, especially since we have no police services and no social services, and we have no jobs for them, and they have nothing to do but get in trouble. So.
Butch, I have a question. When you're writing a letter, are you writing just Butch Miller? Or Butch
No,
Miller
I'm
Council?
Butch Miller Counselor when I'm talking to Les Perkins, because I'm seeking information from him. I am not pushing agenda, I am asking for information, and I have the right to put counselor there for that.
So, Mr. Miller can put council member, that is fine, but he just can't represent that he is making that communication on behalf of the council.
So I was asking to get information about this, that's it.
Okay, just wanted clarification.
Okay. Yeah. Also, city streetlights, we have a lot of city streetlights that are out. I know Derek works by himself, I don't know if it requires two people to be able to put them out. If somebody has to sit there and turn the ladder to make sure that
Yeah.
it gets screwed in. But if not, can't we, get Yates to come over and help and get these streetlights lit up, because there's like 28 of them.
Oh, wow. Is any certain spot or just all over town?
It's all over town. There's a lot of streetlights out. And I think we need, for the safety, especially with some other people in town right now, that we need all the streetlights we have. And, that's all I got.
On your comment, I asked the sheriff and the patrol and probation, they said, no, it's not us. So what you said is news to me.
Yeah, well, I got this from the administration people,
Okay.
but then I sent a letter to Les, so I'm waiting for an answer from them.
Administration of the,
Whatever county administration, that's the main office.
Did you look at any code violation that could be a part of, or?
95.04 B. We could declare it a nuisance, and that's by will of the council.
But no other planning and
No,
development codes?
that's the only thing I found.
Councilman Kelly.
I would like to echo some earlier thoughts that the historical community that's been here forever has made Cascade Locks an incredible place to live. And that I hope we encourage all members now of the community to figure out what is that future of what we want Cascade Locks to be. I really wish that we could have found a solution to fill the vacancy tonight, and hopefully, again, next meeting, we can come with a compromise and the best fit to make this work. I would like to ask the citizens to understand the role that the city plays in the data center versus the role that the port plays. And that everybody is involved in listening to all of the meetings, our meetings here, the port meetings, making sure that you're an active, involved citizen, and making sure that you have the information that's available to you. I would like to, I have an incredible bias, but the AVID program that Chrissy was talking about is an incredible program. And they are always looking for volunteers to come in and serve as tutors for the program. And I want to say, Bernard's not here anymore, but just taking that on as community service and giving it back. I run around town often and I see the garbage, and it's a huge. And then, Mr. Bennett, I saw that post office boxes got installed for the park on the north side. I don't know if it's a mobile home estate park, mid-Columbia, I don't know what it's called, but the trailer park has post office boxes. And I didn't, members of the Shahala community have been asking for post office boxes, and I don't know how to do that.
Is that the one on Forest Lane?
Yes.
I can tell you that the city has no say at all about post office, about rural route boxes.
Okay.
We tried to have a right of way permit, and we were told legally that we have no say. The post office gets to decide all on their
I tried to make a fight with the post office and Gordon told me no.
Thank you very much.
Sean.
I want to thank everybody who came today, staff, the concerned citizens. This was a long meeting. It was a meeting full of discussion and discourse, and I appreciate everybody's demeanor and plowing through what we have to get done in these meetings and taking the time to make sure that we are we fully understand the choices we make. I want to make a special and want to thank Bernard and his just walking around cleaning up, and I do think that we should definitely get some of these other community requests put on the agenda in future meetings, not necessarily this next one, but definitely to happen and make sure that we announce them thoroughly in advance. And that's it.
All right, thank you. So, thank you to the city and staff and in putting together all this information, and Jordan, all your hard work at hunting down all the different options for the community development. Thank you, Ruben, too. Well, here the whole time, and always appreciate your guidance and your wisdom and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who came. And I am just really, really proud of everyone. And I thought there was a lot of good discussion, tough discussions, really tough. But we got through it. At the end of the day, we all love Cascade Locks. We all want to do well. And I can't say how proud I am of the council and everyone. And just being respectful towards one another. I'm just really, really proud of everybody. So, and at that, let's call it a night.
Need a motion to adjourn.
We need a motion to adjourn.
I move you adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote. Official.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, the official roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor